Stampers, this is Eleanor McGarry. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Canada, and in this video I'm going to show you the many different ways you can use the basic border dies to create some beautiful cards. We'll be making a simple gatefold card, and these are your two base elements for your project. The base card is in pale papaya, and I've chosen some coordinating pattern paper using the Expressions in Ink Designer Series paper. So I've gone ahead and die cut the edges of all my paper using this die from the Basic Borders die. And so now we're going to glue our pattern paper onto our flaps. Bring in our craft sheet here. Check our surface. Go ahead and add liquid glue. Just position it as centered as possible. And also on the other side. And you're going to see that it doesn't quite meet in the middle here. And of course I'm going to have a white layer underneath there. It's not going to meet in the middle here, but don't worry about that because we're going to do a little panel here that will totally hide the opening. And of course it's only going to be glued to one side, so when you open it you still see the pretty pattern. So we're going to do the little panel that goes in the center of our card, and the greeting that I've chosen is this thank you greeting. I do a lot of thank you cards for all my customers, and this comes from the Handsomely Suited stamp set. Thank you right there. And we are going to stamp it in Pear Pizzazz ink. We're going to do it right in the center. Just going to see that this is straight. Okay, so do it in the center. That. And then I've gone ahead off camera and die cut these pieces, which are from the Artistically inked stamp set. This one here. So I used the littlest bloom and the leaf, stamped in pale papaya and Pear Pizzazz, and we're going to go ahead and glue that. I'm going to do one here and one here. Go ahead and grab your flower, and then here, and we're going to do the leaves just balance out. Just put a little bit of glue there. Oh, I forgot this little flower, trio of flowers here. We're going to stamp in the open spaces here, so we can still do that. Just do one like, hang on here, like that. And maybe another one right there. And this is Magenta Madness. And I made a little bit of a boo-boo there. See? Right there. But don't worry, because we're going to add some little gems on there after. So there's always an opportunity to fix little boo-boos here and there when you're making a handmade card. I always like to take the chance to cover up my mistakes and add a little bit of flair to the card. And we'll just stick this in the bottom there. So I'm gonna go grab some gems to cover up that little boo-boo, and we'll fix that all up. I'm going to blend a little bit of color. This is pale papaya. Just to soften the stark contrast of the white. Soften it up a little bit. So have a little bit of shading there. And then, of course, the little boo-boo we can cover. These are the in color jewels, so it comes in all the new in colors. Magenta Madness, Pale Papaya, Evening Evergreen, Fresh Freesia, and Soft Succulents. And of course we're going to grab the fresh papaya, the pale papaya, sorry. And go ahead and cover up that little mistake that we had right there. So it's gone. And then maybe add a little bit more of the gems somewhere else. So I like to do things in threes, so maybe we'll do more right here, one more right there. Like that. And this, of course, will be glued at the final step right there. So now we're going to decorate the inside panel. The last step to making our card is actually decorating the white panel that'll go inside the card. So we're going to do that by stamping a little bit of flower detail on the bottom here and aging the whole layer with a little bit of blending with pale papaya and a little bit of masking. So I'm going to start using this image stamped in Magenta Madness. I'm just going to check the intensity of my ink off paper there, and I like that. So let's go ahead and stamp it just off to the side like that. And then we're going to now mask it. And all masking is you're going to stamp the image like on a scrap piece of paper and then cut it out. I've cut mine out with a little bit of a handle because I know that this part of the flower is off the page. I knew that when I stamped my image. And when you cover your image with the mask, anything you stamp over the mask will stamp looking like it's behind that masked image. So let's get our smaller stamp, smaller flower, and stamp it in pale papaya. And I want to stamp it like right there, so it looks like it's behind the flower. And we're going to do 2 leaves this way. So again, we're just going to cover up the original flower on the card, and then go ahead and take your leaf stamp, and I'm using Pear Pizzazz, and just check the color. Okay, and stamp one there and another one just below that, or beside it rather, and you get what looks like that. Just a little design on the bottom. So now I'm going to age everything with just the blending brush. Again with pale papaya, just a little bit on the sides, give it a little bit of unity with the front of the card, because don't forget we also aged the little flap we had in that we're gonna glue to the front. And then final step, what I always do is my splatter stamp, which is from the Forever Fern stamp set. Just a little bit of splatter here and there, you know, just adds a little bit. And now this is ready to glue in the middle of our card. Okay, last but not the least, we're gonna complete the card, just assembling the pieces. And get my craft sheet just to make sure I don't get any glue on my surface. Just so you know, the craft sheet, if you get glue on there, it just dries up and it balls up. It's easily scraped off with your finger, so there's no mess. You won't have to worry about getting glue on your surface and having to clean it with a rag or wet cloth, because the craft sheet will prevent that from happening. And then go ahead and glue that to the middle of your card. So like that. And then of course this panel here, we want to make sure we only glue to one side. So what I do is I will put it on top, and I'll know that I only want glue on this side. You can see where the border is of this flap, so you'll know where to add glue and what not to add glue to, like which part of the panel not to. Make sure there's no glue. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And then just go ahead and glue it to your panel. It's only going to stick to the one side. And now you have a finished card. Here's a little gatefold card using the basic border dies as a design element. Just going to make this so it's higher so you can see it. So there it is. Then you open it up. And now I will show you 5 more cards I used using each one of the dies in the basic border set. Stay tuned. I made several other cards showing you how to use the border dies, the basic border dies. This of course is the one that we just did. And I did the same kind of gatefold card but using a different stamp set. This here is the painted Poppies set on page 24 of the catalog, and the dies I used to create the leaves and the outline here, as well as the center black center of the flower, is from the Poppy Moments dies. The pattern paper is from the You're a Peach designer series paper, so same idea. There's the stamp set, and I colored in using Balmy Blue Stampin' blends, and of course this is the one that we just did. And I made, I think, 5 or 6 more cards using the dies, the basic border dies. I'll show you those coming up. In this card, you can see the border die that I use on the right side of the white panel of the card. I used the Flowers of Friendship stamp set on page 78 of the catalog. I stamped the flowers using black memento ink and colored them in using polished pink Stampin' blends in the dark and light shade. I then punched them out using the accompanying punch. And then the designer series paper on the right side of the card comes from the well-suited designer series paper pack. In this card, I used the zigzag border from the basic border die set on either side of the white layer on top of the card. The stamp set that I use is called Delicate Dahlias, and it's one of the ones you can earn for free during celebration, which starts this Sunday, August 1st. The colors that I use are Bumblebee, Just Jade, and Calypso Coral, and the ribbon that I use is the black and white gingham that you can find in the July to December 2021 mini catalog. In this card, I used the cloud border to cut out the white panel in front of the card and to do some shading on the base card underneath. The main image on the card is the bird image from the Free as a Bird stamp set, which I stamped in Memento Black, and then colored in using Stampin' blends in Poppy Parade, Pool Party, and Soft Seafoam. The front white panel is cut out using the cloud border from the basic border die set, and I sponged the edges of it in Soft Seafoam using the blending brush. Underneath that on the base card, I did do a little bit more cloud formations using a stencil that I cut out of basic white cardstock and the cloud border die, and I just layered it onto the base card and blended some ink in Soft Seafoam and Pool Party to create that beautiful background of clouds. I used the cloud border again in this card to create some clouds behind the main image. The stamp set I use for this card is called Sweet Strawberry. The colors that I use are Coastal Cabana, Melon Mambo, and Gorgeous Grape. And the bottom is one of the embossing folders from the Checks and Dots set. The ribbon that I used to separate the bottom embossed panel and the top clouds are the open weave ribbon in polished pink and fresh freesia. All the supplies will be listed on the bottom, so you don't have to write anything down. Everything, all the links will be on the bottom. In this card, I used another one of the basic border dies to cut my pale papaya layer before I glued it onto the white base. This card uses the Sweet as a Peach stamp set. Colors used are pumpkin pie, pale papaya, and pear pizzazz. I also used the 1/2 inch pale papaya and white ribbon tied with a little bit of baker's twine, and the image is stamped on a white layer, die cut with the Stitch So Sweetly die cuts. And there you have it. I've shown you 7 different card ideas of how you could use the basic border dies to create cards. I hope I've inspired you to try one, if not all, of the different examples here in this tutorial. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you did. The subscribe button is the red rectangle in the bottom right. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you again soon.